Hi, everybody. This is Cindy Kennedy, and you are listening to another episode of Living with Lyme. We're so thrilled that you've come back week after week to listen and to learn. I do want to give a big shout out to Maggie. I talked to Maggie a little while on the phone, and she told me she's an avid listener, and I want to thank her. She said she's actually addicted. So that's kind of crazy. Anyways, today we have a really cool episode for you. We're going to be talking with Dr. Tracy Thomas, and she is one of those people that really found the importance of nutrition, and she uses a definite research-based approach to nutrition. She practiced for several years before she changed paths a little bit, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about that. For more of the information on her impressive bio, go ahead and go to the website www.livingwithlyme.us and pick it up. So without further ado, Dr. Tracy, how are you doing?
Fantastic. And I, of course, want to thank you, Cindy, for having me here today. And, I want to make sure we have fun. We answer all your questions and certainly learn as much as we can and share as much as we can about nutrition and fasting and the science behind fasting. So thank you again for having me.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. And everybody wants to learn. Everybody wants to learn about this and know what's this. I got this crazy rogue curl. I gotta get rid of it. Hold on. There we go. Is that better? There we go. Anyways, people want to know, there's a lot of talk about fasting, intermittent fasting, what it does for your body, and what it really does for your health in general. And it goes back to the caveman times, right?
Absolutely. So we have actually evolved as a species dependent on the hunt and harvest. And what that means is we used to go periods of time where we would indulge in eating, and then we would go several hours and potentially days in hunger or without eating. Now, that is a concept to most of us in this day and age of 2019, and certainly in our culture and society, that is foreign. We are accustomed to eating every 3, 4 hours or 5 hours, and certainly our social and personal calendars are dependent on our next meal. There are also several other societies, cultures, those practicing certain religions that do undergo periods of fasting. And primarily, we want to do that for its health benefits, and we're going to get into a lot more of that. But think about, many, many, many moons ago, we evolved as these humans and species dependent on that hunt and harvest.
I know, it's like feast or famine, right?
Yes, and
yeah.
the timing of this is of the utmost importance. Of course, we're talking behind in the next week with our Thanksgiving holiday, one of our biggest holidays of consumption of food. So
right, because we certainly do feast, and then we kind of don't feel like eating a little while later, but everybody's usually passed out on the couch.
That's right. That's what my house looks like.
Yeah, everybody's laying all over the place. But tell us a little bit about your background, because I think you worked with gastric bypass people, right?
Correct. So I am trained as a naturopathic doctor, which some people are familiar with or not. So I'll start there. Naturopathic medicine is, following nature medicine, nature cure, which is learning about all the natural medicines from nutrition to food, how we eat, to herbal medicines, botanicals, and how to utilize those in order to help support our health. Naturopathic doctors do attend 4 years of medical school. We're trained in all of the same sciences, as well as pharmaceuticals and approach that conventional medical doctors take. But we are the only practitioners that learn about these natural medicines, and specifically those that are based and backed by evidence. So we want to make sure that what we're using is safe, it's been validated in science, and has been proven from an evidence-based standpoint. And I started my career working with gastric bypass patients. And those are individuals who are morbidly obese that undergo a surgical procedure in order to help stimulate weight loss and have an effective weight loss effect. I counseled those patients pre and post-operatively in regards to how to eat or what to eat, and then specifically how to maintain macro and micronutrient nutrition, make sure that they were getting nourished on a restrictive diet, which they're on after they have a procedure in order to reduce the size of their stomach. After working with the morbid obese population and a bariatric surgeon, I moved on to an integrative cancer hospital and spent almost 10 years working with those who have a diagnosis of cancer and supporting them with evidence-based, not only nutrition and food recommendations, as well as nutritional supplements that were helpful to support them during treatment to help reduce the severity of side effects, as well as beyond treatment to help support them, with their diagnosis, as well as any sequelae or things that they underwent or suffered from the cancer treatment itself. And it is all supportive care. It was an integrative hospital, so we had a wonderful collaborative team of experts in many areas, from oncology to nutrition to naturopathic medicine to acupuncture, mind-body therapists, you name it. They really had a wealth of resources. And after completing my term there, I moved to Southern California and was working in a concierge medical practice, and I was utilizing something called ProLon, the 5-day fasting mimicking diet, with a lot of my clients and patients, and decided that this is something that I want to get behind, and how can I better educate healthcare providers, doctors, everyone from customers to practitioners, a variety of practitioners, on what we know about the benefits of fasting and what is the science that's out there, what more do we have to learn, and learning about what is a fasting mimicking diet. That's what brought me here today.
So what is ProLon?
So ProLon is
and it's LON, everybody. It's not something you put on your LAWN.
Correct. It's spelled PROLON. And what it is stands for is Dr. Walter Longo out of the University of Southern California has studied the longest living human populations. So we're looking to promote longevity, hence ProLon, PROLON. And Dr. Longo at his Longevity Institute has been studying these centenarians and kind of what is allowing them to not only live the longest, but they live the healthiest. And he created the 5-day fasting mimicking diet, which is a way that you are able to eat and consume food, and you gain all of the wonderful health benefits of fasting. So it is truly the easiest, most convenient way to fast and get those health benefits, because we all love to eat.
We do love to eat. That's kind of one of the problems, because as you mentioned before, it's a social thing and we're social beings. We need to be around people, but everybody says, hey, let's go out to dinner, And so, there's been some studies on the product, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. So
tell us about the study, because we, like you said, things are science-based. We really want to learn about it, and we want to see if there's differences as a comparative kind of thing. So give us the info.
So we have a clinical trial that has shown that a 5-day fasting mimicking diet can have many benefits to individuals. And primarily the benefits that we saw in our trial were you can maintain healthy levels of many risk factors or biomarkers that are related to certain diseases and illness, including cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. So our trial was shown to maintain healthy levels of fasting blood sugar, insulin, an inflammatory marker called CRP, that would be drawn in your blood by your doctor. Another marker called insulin-like growth factor 1, which is a marker that's associated with when we have high levels of IGF-1, we have an association with cancer. There are other markers such as cholesterol and blood pressure that we're all well aware of that were also maintained. We saw a maintenance of healthy levels of circulating mesenchymal stem cells. And we did see a preservation of our lean body mass, which is a benefit over water fasting. So if you're on a fasting mimicking diet, you're able to eat food. There is a nice benefit that you preserve your lean body mass. And I will tell you, one of the most welcomed benefits that you all will appreciate is you will experience a reduction of weight, as well as it's coming from our visceral fat, which is that stubborn belly fat that we can't seem to get rid of that can lead to some unhealthy conditions down the road as we age. So it's a 5-day meal program. It's easy, it's convenient. Everything you need for the 5 days comes in one kit, which you can see behind me here. Everything will be laid out in its individual day box. So all of the meals and the food will be contained in each individual day box here. So we made it real simple. And what you're going to find in these boxes we have soups for lunch and dinner in a variety of flavors. There is a nut and honey based bar that's breakfast as well as a snack on several days. It is a fan favorite. People really love the nut and honey based bar. And then we have other snacks such as kale crackers, olives, there's herbal teas. We have something called the L drink, which is going to help keep you hydrated as well as may help preserve that lean body mass. And really, you'll find that the food is quite delicious. You don't have to think about going to the grocery store. You don't have to think about, what you're going to make and how to prepare the food. And the benefit to the 5-day meal program is it's the only fasting mimicking diet that has been validated and backed by science in our clinical trial. So
where did the money come from for the clinical trials?
Yeah, so Dr. Longo has I believe we're over $40 million in research grants from many institutions, including the National Institute of Health, NIH, as well as the National Cancer Institute. So there is a tremendous amount of belief in Dr. Longo and his research when you see these types of institutions making donations to further the research and the development. And I can also share that Dr. Longo and his team are actively underway in investigating over 40 clinical trials looking at fasting mimicking diets for those of us that have specific medical conditions. So ProLon here, in my opinion, and I use these words often, was really the tip of the iceberg as far as what we know about the benefits of fasting mimicking diets, and we have so much more to learn. So, we're anxious for a lot of more research to come our way here in the near future.
Right, because we really want to see a fair amount of subjects that participate in the study. Did you find that there were a lot of people that just couldn't do the program?
No, and that's a great question, because you would think when you're talking about fasting or a fasting mimicking diet, and typically with water fasting, that is one of the biggest challenges is you have a very poor compliance, which means you had a large percentage of your people trying to undergo the fast that would drop out. That was the complete opposite with our fasting mimicking diet trial, in that we had a 94% compliance rate, which means that 94% of the people that started the program successfully completed the 5 days. And what's also of note is that we had them undergo 3 consecutive cycles, which means they did 5 consecutive days of the fasting mimicking diet. Then they went back to their normal diet, normal lifestyle, whatever they were eating before, for 25 days. And then they did 3 consecutive cycles, so it'd be 3 consecutive months. In order for them to commit, it's 5 days. You can do anything for 5 days, especially when you have food to eat and keep you busy and it's tasty. It is entirely plant-based too. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier.
What about, people always ask about organic and where is the sources from?
Yes, exactly. So there has been the utmost priority in regards to the sourcing of our ingredients. And there are over 66 different ingredients that are entirely plant-based in the entire program. It is, again, plant-based, wholesome, very nourishing foods, as well as sourced from ingredients that are gluten-free, dairy-free, and non-GMO. However, we are unable to have the certification of organic because there are 66 ingredients. So in order to certify the entire box, every one of the 66 ingredients will have to be certified. I will also share that the ingredients, many are sourced from the European Union. So for example, our olives are sourced from Spain. And for those of you that aren't aware, they have much more strict food regulations as far as quality and purity of food over there. I think that's why our food tastes great as well. The other part to consider is that the tremendous amount of effort in regards to ingredients, and it went as far back to, again, those living in those blue zones, those centenarians living the longest and the healthiest, is what were they eating? And it went down as far as to the flavors of the herbal teas, were the herbal teas and the flavors that the centenarians were drinking. So you can imagine that there was a tremendous amount of thought in the purity, quality, and the choices of the ingredients as well.
Now, those elders that are in their hundreds, are they, I don't believe they're fasting, right?
No, and they were just living in these populations of the people that have the health span, which again is not only living the longest, but living the healthiest. And why are they living to 110? And that is Dr. Longo's, kind of mission at this point is, let's get all of us living to 110, and more importantly, having a health span. And if you have a look, you'll read in Dr. Longo's book here, The Longevity Diet. He does explain how this all began and how he studied these populations. And he is from Italy himself, and went back to, is it the water? Is there a fountain of youth? What is it about these people? And came down to the food, as well as the association of these lower levels of something called IGF-1. Insulin-like growth factor 1. And that brings me to, that is one of our growth signaling pathways, along with something called mTOR and protein kinase A. And Dr. Longo has pioneered the research that it is these three growth signaling pathways of IGF-1, mTOR, and protein kinase A, that if you can down regulate them, that triggers your body to go into a cellular reset and promote that cellular regeneration and rejuvenation, which is the primary benefit of the entire program. And that occurs after consecutive day fasting. That's different than we started the conversation talking about. There's many of us practicing intermittent fasting, which is typically non-consecutive days, or something called time-restricted eating, which is we're changing the amount of time that we're fasting overnight and reducing our eating window. So time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting they are types of fasting, but they are very different than the health benefits of the cellular reset and the cellular regeneration and rejuvenation, which only occurs after consecutive days of a fast.
Right. You did about 3, right? It was the 3 that you tested people after, and you found that after only one of the 5-day fasting, their markers kind of crept back up quicker than after 3.
Well, not exactly.
Oh, well then let's get John on the phone here.
What we found and what we validated, and is shown in our trials, that we tested prior to cycle 1 and then after completing their 3rd cycle. And I think what's important to think about is when we undergo this cellular reset, it is similar to a training program, which means, the better trained the body is, theoretically, the better results you're going to have. In that, I equate it to the analogy of, I join the gym, I'm going to be much more effective and I'm going to feel better and achieve my results if I go, once a week instead of once a month. So, there is the cellular reset that occurs is our body's innate response to fasting. And it's a way of, if we get out of the way every once in a while, let our body do the work it needs to do. We are a self-cleaning type mechanism, and our body will go out and find those damaged and dysfunctional parts of our cells and look at how they can be repaired. And that's how really, when we talk about what is a cellular reset, what does that mean? So the first time someone undergoes ProLon, the 5-day fasting mimicking diet, we would recommend for 3 consecutive months, 5 days, 25-day rest period, and 3 consecutive months. And what we also found that was quite astounding is that the results are maintained long after completing those 3 cycles. And again, we told people, go back, go eat what your normal diet was, your lifestyle, whatever your routine was. So that was with unrestricted recommendations in between or after completing the cycles, and their results were maintained long after completion.
That's interesting. Let's get to the nuts and bolts, because people don't really know what these factors are you're talking about, and mTOR, et cetera. So let's take someone, let's make a list of the people who would benefit. Okay. And let's just do the ones that are general for the population, because we're standard American diet people, and we've got obesity, and we've got diabetes, and we got cholesterol, those kind, hypertension maybe as well. So outside of those, did I miss something that's more common that we hear about?
In my personal opinion, I think a 5-day FMD is appropriate for anyone looking to improve their overall health and wellness. So, we have those that are looking to move the needle on those risk factors and biomarkers, as you suggested, from high blood pressure to high cholesterol, to those that are seeing some shifts in their blood sugar balance in regards to pre-diabetes or diabetes. We are looking at anyone who's looking to improve their overall sense of well-being. In some people, it's as simple of, I want more energy, I want to feel better, I want to wake up and have the energy that I need to get through the day. We also have a large number of customers, and I'll include myself in this, in that I'm looking to do whatever I can in order to improve my health down the road from a prevention standpoint. So if I can clean up and repair some damaged and dysfunctional cells and parts of my cells now, I believe that I am, improving my future and working from a preventative medicine standpoint. Now, we don't have a science or a study to validate that statement. That's my opinion. But that's where you're going to see people looking to do it too. What can I do to improve my health down the road?
Right, especially because January's coming and people don't want to flip the switch a little bit. But let's talk about chronic illness. I know that cholesterol, et cetera, chronic illnesses, but let's talk about people who have fibromyalgia. Let's talk about people who have Lyme disease and are kind of stuck. Where does ProLon fit in?
So this is where we are anxiously awaiting Dr. Longo and his lab to come out with more research. Mm-hmm. There is research out there that is preclinical in nature, which means it's being tested and has been tested in those that have chronic conditions in mouse models or non-human models. So unfortunately, I can't really speak to any more than until we need to get these human trials completed so we can have some validation in what we're seeing in those that have autoimmune conditions, those that are struggling with Lyme and fibromyalgia and chronic disease. I will encourage you all, these are conditions that you should work with your individual doctor. your individual healthcare provider. Go to them, ask them, what is the science behind the evidence of fasting with my condition? And would undergoing periodic fasting mimicking diets, would that benefit me and my condition and help me improve my overall health? And your healthcare provider, who knows the most about you and your condition and your health history, is really your best advocate and most knowledgeable in regards to determining, is this something that's going to benefit you? And certainly they can look at the science of what we know that's out there already. And hopefully we'll have some more of these trials so we can help guide them more specifically in a fasting mimicking diet for those with specific conditions.
I'm just concerned that average mainstream medicine is going to poo-poo.
Yeah.
And that's where because half the time, if you were to go to your doc and say, what kind of experience do you have, or do you think this will help me? A lot of them are just too busy to even bring about this information. Do you, as a company, can you provide information to patients if they're looking for some of that to bring to their primary cares?
Absolutely. And what I would encourage you all to do is have a look at our website, our company website, which is capital L-Nutra, that's N as in Nancy, UTRA.com. And what you're going to find on there are clinical resources and scientific studies. So we have a list of many scientific articles, as well as a list of our clinical trials that are currently underway or planned. And your healthcare provider, your doctor, that's what they want to see. They want to review these studies in science. And I'll also tell you, Cindy, we are actively, in Dr. Longo, we have been at conferences, from personalized lifestyle medicine conferences to medical conferences to integrative medicine conferences, to you name it, all over, not only the United States, but all over the world. And we are actively educating and training many doctors and healthcare providers on the science of fasting and fasting mimicking diets, because when I went to school many years ago, and when most healthcare providers went to school, fasting and fasting mimicking diets was not part of our training program. So there are many healthcare providers that are actively seeking this knowledge and seeking the education and to understand the science. So we're doing the best we can, but certainly you can provide your healthcare provider with the resource to look at the science and have them reach out to us here at L-Nutra. We have an extensive clinical education and medical education team. We're here to help. We want to learn and pass along our knowledge as much as we can to as many individuals so they can help you and specific to your case and your condition.
So let's talk about what happens in the body. Let's get real specific.
You got it.
Yeah. So we are now on our road to a fast. And we're using, we'll say we're using ProLon because that's what we're talking about here. What is happening with the caloric restriction? What signals are going to your cells? What is the benefit? What are we trying to do?
You got it. Great.
I got it.
You got it. That is absolutely a great question. So let's start with we'll start from the beginning. Okay. Preparing, how can you prepare for your 5-day fasting mimicking diet? And the best piece of advice I can have is choose your 5 days wisely. In that you want to make sure it's going to be conducive to your work and social calendar, in that you are going to be on a fasting mimicking diet. So you want to make sure that you're allowing your body to rest. You're not going to be out at social engagement after social engagement where you might be tempted to eat or drink something that's not a part of the program. So pick your 5 days, prepare by, increasing your consumption of plant-based foods, reducing your consumption of caffeine, coffee, or caffeinated teas prior to starting the program. Then what's going to happen again, and you go back to then day one, you wake up, you're ready to go, and you're going to pull out your day one box here, and you're going to pull out your food and see what you have. We have a suggested meal card in the program. You can consume the food in any order as you wish. You just can't move food from one day to the next. And what happens, I'm going to take you through of what's happening on each day of the biological fast. That way you can understand what the changes that your body's going through.
Oh, so there's different things that happen from the beginning to day 1 to day 2 to day 3, 4, and 5?
Correct.
So it's how your body is responding. That's what we're going to talk about. Okay.
Yes, this is how
you're on.
We are triggering your own body's response. And Cindy, you mentioned calories and caloric restriction. And actually, what's happening, it is the balance and the ratio of the macro and micronutrients, which is, I call it, the secret sauce in this program. And so the balance of the macro and micronutrients of the food on any given day. So day one, you're preparing and priming the body to enter fasting mode. Okay. On day 2, the balance of the macro and micronutrients is transitioning you into fat burning mode. So you're changing your primary fuel source to a fat source. And that's why we have the reduction of that visceral fat, is your body is going to go seek energy, and it's going to go and seek out a fat burning mode. On day 3, the ratio of nutrients is laid out. Now you're triggering your body to go out, find those damaged, dysfunctional parts of our cells, and either determine, are they repairable? And then on day 4 and 5, you're going to promote that cellular regeneration and rejuvenation. That will continue for 5 days after completing the program. And that's even after you've gone back to what we call refeeding or transitioning your diet back to your normal food and normal intake. So the entire program, the ratio of nutrients is low in protein, low in carbohydrates, low in sugar, and higher in fat. And the fats are coming from these healthier fats of nuts and oils. And it is, again, the ratio of those nutrients, which is triggering the cellular reset and that cellular regeneration and rejuvenation. And you can also look at it as, this is a way your eyes and your stomach see the food, see the nourishment, but your cells are and your body are in fasting mode. And it is that stress that creates our own body to undergo this self-cleaning and cellular cleanup.
Was there something that is part of stem cell regeneration as well?
So we look at what was shown in our clinical trial was a maintenance of something called healthy circulating stem cells. So these are stem cells that are in our circulation. They're moving around our body. So that we did see in our trial was this maintenance of these healthy circulating stem cells. We have some more research to do in regards to, what does that mean and how is that beneficial and what are the health benefits? But that was quite fascinating. And the term stem cells is very popular right now in regards to the health benefits. And we're looking at a lot more research into what does that mean when we promote that cellular regeneration and rejuvenation. And it is a way that we are, again, repairing kind of these damaged, dysfunctional parts of our cells. So
how can we tell our cells are damaged? I'm trying to think what studies reflect that. Are we, tell me, I don't know.
To be honest, I don't know that either, but if we think about living our lifestyle in how we eat, how we live, the air we're exposed to, toxins in our environment, to our lifestyle, to our individual risk factors, which include, our weight, our genetics with underlying risk for certain health conditions and medical conditions. So, I don't know if there's anyone out there that has, all of our cells. We have billions of cells, right? So over time and as we live, they're damaged. And more specifically, it's the parts of them that are damaged. So we want to repair those parts. You want to undergo a self-cleaning mechanism. A lot of us, will have the oil changed on our car. And the reason we do that is because we don't want to have to replace the entire engine. We want to keep things healthy and keep things running smoothly. And that's kind of the analogy we can look at fasting too. It's a way to kind of keep our parts running smoothly. And many of our cells and many of our organ systems are regenerated and replaced on an hourly and daily basis. If we look at the cells that line our digestive tract, they are constantly undergoing repair mechanisms. And that's something that just how the body innately was created.
So meat and potatoes just doesn't cut it, right? It just doesn't do the work that restricting calories do. It's this,
and
I'm thinking of keto. I'm thinking of people that, really are on this keto kick. Is there any similarity here?
So there's many types of dietary programs or meal programs out there. And what we know is that when surveyed in 2018, the number one meal program, dietary program that was followed was fasting, intermittent fasting, time restricted eating. And then down the list, you went everything from a ketogenic type of diet to a low carbohydrate diet, to those that ate vegan or plant-based foods only, to those that underwent caloric restriction. So there's hundreds of different dietary and meal programs out there. I can tell you that another one of those wonderful and welcome side benefits to the 5-day fasting mimicking diet is most people will be in a state of what we call mild nutritional ketosis. So we didn't track that. We didn't track that in our trial, but we do hear and commonly reports of mild nutritional ketosis. Now, keep in mind, this is not intended and wasn't created to be a ketogenic diet. It's just another one of those welcome side benefits that is achieved while on the program. So if an individual was looking to transition onto a ketogenic diet, that would be a nice transition after completing the cycles of ProLon, or any other personalized nutrition meal program. This is a great jump start to that, because we become very aware of our ritualistic behaviors of how we eat and what we eat and how often that we eat, that in just 5 days, we realize very quickly we can transition, and it's a great jumpstart to a personalized meal program.
I like that idea of jump-starting something. I think it's sometimes very hard for people to make a commitment. I think that maybe if they make a commitment for 5 days, especially if they really have a lot of work to do and they're afraid, but if they make a commitment for 5 days and then move on to a better lifestyle, then it may very well be a nice segue into the new you.
I love it. You said it right on. And I couldn't agree more, in the sense of it is our ritualistic behaviors that are so hard to change. And I can tell you, in my experience in spending time in creating lifestyle and nutrition personalized meal programs for all of my clients and patients over the years, it's hard to stick to them for long periods of time when you're seeing very slow, minimal results. So this is a great jump start to a new you. You see results in 5 days, and you can do anything for 5 days. And you're certainly motivated when you see how you feel after completing the 5 days. And then you're willing to commit. You have the confidence, support in order to commit to a new program.
Are you in trouble? Are they coming after you?
Here they come. We are located in Southern California, in Los Angeles. So You may frequently hear fire trucks and, emergency vehicles in our background right out our door.
That's okay. That's okay. As long as they're not going to take you away before our interview ends.
Yes.
So people who are interested in trying ProLon, they may say, why should I do an expensive, maybe it's not that expensive. We don't have to talk money unless you want to. Why can't I just do something similar? What's the reasoning that you would say, you know what, you're better off doing this structured program because now fill in the blank?
Yes. You want something that's validated in science, has proven to be safe, effective at achieving your goals and benefits. So personally, when I commit to something, I want to know that it's been validated. I want to know that there's science behind it. I want to know that I can do it. And I want to know, most importantly, that it is going to be safe for me. So, set your goals, have a look. We have a website. It's called ProLon FMD. So PROLON, F as in Frank, M as in Mary, D as in dog.com. And you can find a lot more on our website in regards to information about ProLon, how it can help you in achieving your health goals. You'll also find more description about the program as we've taken you through here today, as well as, many other people that can talk about their experience and how much they enjoyed the fast and how they got through the fast. Please check out ProLonFMD.com for lots more information.
Is there support people that talk to people during their time that they can call in?
Absolutely. So we have health coaches that are available at no charge that you can sign up for. You can opt in or opt out, and they are tremendous support. And what they can do is they can either talk with you on the phone, talk with you about how to consume the meals. They will also send daily supportive emails reminding you about what's happening on each day, and supporting you in that you can do this, you can get through it. And again, that is something that you can opt in on once you purchase the product.
I think that people like to know what is actually happening within their body. People nowadays really like some, but not all, the science related to how this is going to improve their life. And then possibly, is there information about going forward? Say they do the 3 months. What is suggested after that point? I mean, in my thought here is, if someone is, let's take inflammation. Inflammation is pretty chronic across the board, and someone's got a high CRP, and that is a generalized marker. It's very nonspecific, but it can relate to a variety of things. So they have that to start. They do their 3 months, they get their level, and then fingers crossed, it has dropped down. And that's extremely valuable. That's very, very important. And so when would they think to repeat this?
Cindy, your questions are always on target here. So
there's been no prep. I'm thinking to myself, when we're talking about something so specific as a product, which I don't believe I've ever done this before. I want to know if I'm going to suggest this to people and suggest that I understand the research, which your research is a quantitative study. I hate quantitative studies. I have the hardest time understanding it. I want to make sure I'm asking all the right questions so I can bring it forward from this point. But in my thought process is, I want to know where we started, where we ended, and then maybe we're going to follow it over the course of the next, say, 3 months and see what these numbers are doing. And of course, you can do that with your blood sugar, your fasting insulin levels. You can do it with your cholesterol. You can do it, with anything. I'm thinking that might be a way that I would handle it. Is that something that is correct, or am I making this up out of the air?
Yeah, so the simplest way I like to see it is it's kind of the what to do next. What do I do now? So after completing those first 3 cycles, it's really going to be dependent on how often to undergo this cellular reset again is going to be dependent on your own personal health. So if you're one of those healthier individuals, you've achieved your health goals after completing those first 3 cycles, consider ProLon, the 5-day FMD, anywhere from 1 to 3 times a year for that cleanup. The other option is if someone has more work to do, if they are looking to further reduce their risk factors and those biomarkers, they can continue on at anywhere from once a month to maybe considering a quarterly 5-day FMD. So every 3 months or 2 months. So it's really dependent on your individual health, which is a nice way you can personalize the program. And I'll also tell you, we have other great resources and products for you to use in between and after completing. And one of which is called the Fast Bar, which is a nut and honey based bar, and we have 2 other flavors. And the Fast Bar was created to help ease into fasting, and for those that are practicing that time restricted eating. You can consume a bar and theoretically not signal those growth pathways, so you're staying in that fasting mode. So if you wake up and you have to go to work, or you want to go to the gym and you want to stay within your fasting time restricted eating window, theoretically you could have a bar. It will help curb your appetite to your next meal. The other thing that we have, which you're going to love, is we have something called Nutrition for Longevity, which is a 3-day meal delivery of prepared foods for breakfast and lunch, and then you have the ingredients to prepare dinner. And Nutrition for Longevity, our food is all sourced from ancient grains, from those that were consuming certain foods from in the centenarian and those blue zone populations. It is on a hydroponic farm, which is really the 3-day meal kit is going to be something you can consume as a prepared meal kit. It'll be delivered to your house. When you talk about from farm to table, this was the healthiest food that's going to be available in our culture, and that's Nutrition for Longevity. So if you're someone who likes to have your meals prepared and easy prep for dinner, that's something to consider too. So we're coming up with these resources of what to do after you complete your 5-day FMD and how can you continue these health benefits. You can also read Dr. Longo's book, which has a 2-week meal program, which he would promote a Mediterranean and pescatarian lifestyle, and he has a 2-week meal program laid out for you there too. So lots of resources and lots of things for you all to try.
What about the person who has, say, kidney or renal issues?
Yeah.
Somebody who's really has some sort of a significant medical condition.
Yeah. The ProLon, and as it was created, may not be appropriate for you. So what we would recommend is if you have medical conditions, if you're taking prescription medications, please talk with your doctor, your healthcare provider, and they can determine if this is appropriate for you, and you can undergo the fast under their supervision and approval. But we always want to make sure, I don't know much about your health or your individual health. So if you have a medical condition, if you're taking certain prescription medications, have the conversation with your doctor to determine if it's appropriate for you.
Right, right. My thought is there's so many people that are deficient in micronutrients and their minerals. And I think that is for anyone that's looking for really turning their health around. That's a really great place to start and to ask your provider to look into. On occasion, you might have a provider that has an account with some of the companies that do run these specific type of tests, but in general, something through your local lab will not be anywhere near as comprehensive as a big time nutritional evaluation. I think that's a great place to start with your practitioners, and then you can move on from there, because if you're replenishing what's missing, you're going to start to feel better already. And then if we can then signal this body to make this, snowplow come through and clean up the streets, the science is outlandish. It's coming at us at such a fast pace. And there's so much information. I always say, oh my God, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's a lot. And there's a lot of things out there that may not be as beneficial. And people get caught up in a craze, like, what's the thing about celery juice, juicing celery, and drinking that all day for days in a row and things. It's obviously not going to provide you with much nutrition. It's certainly going to put you in ketosis. I do have one other question about when you are doing this type of fast and you're reducing calories, what happens to your muscle mass?
So our trials showed we preserved your lean body mass, which includes your muscle mass. So the reduction of weight was shown to be that visceral fat, the fat that's around our organs that can lead to many health problems. And that's that stubborn, we call it the belly fat, the abdominal fat. So we did see a preservation of lean body mass. We have many athletes and those in looking to utilize this from a performance standpoint in improving their overall performance as well. So you hit the nail on the head in that we live in very confusing times as far as the inundation of information and information overload and what to do, or how do I know what to eat, or how to move and how to sleep and how many hours and all these things. As far as what we want to do is look at what has been shown in science, and that is our best guide and our best teacher in regards to, you never want to go off and do a do-it-yourself program. You might achieve results, but you might also be at risk for some other things. So, let's stay tuned for all of the science that's to come. And certainly I can speak from, that's what really brought me to El Nutra here, the company and the makers of ProLon Fast Bar, Nutrition for Longevity, in that my appreciation as a healthcare practitioner for over 17 years and working with people. And this is something that has the science and is easy and convenient and safe, and people can do it. So, let's do it. Let's create this movement for our health span here.
Speaking of movement, if it's a lot of, plant-based, there's not a lot of volume, are people going to not have a bowel movement?
No, actually, we hear more commonly that people might have more frequent bowel movements. You might experience a small change in frequency or consistency of our bowel movements. It is a transition in diet for most people, being it's all plant-based. We also include something called a prebiotic fiber, which is inulin. So you're getting a lot of those good fiber sources. So constipation, not having a bowel movement, is not something we commonly hear. And actually, I hear more frequently the opposite. I'll also remind people that you do have less input, so the output might be a little less. And we also would encourage anyone when you're on the fast of the 5 days, make sure you stay hydrated, drink, a minimum of 70 ounces of water throughout the day. And that will include the L drink that's provided, the herbal teas. And you also want to make sure that you're allowing your body to rest and waiting to see how you respond. Treat yourself as fragile until you see how you feel. So no strenuous activity, but you can continue your daily walking routine, focus on things like stretching, mobility, gentle yoga. And those are things that will help keep you busy while on the fast, so you're not thinking about your next meal.
Yeah, that's a hard one, isn't it? So what are we going to have for dinner? I don't know. Go in the box there and figure it out. This has been a lot of information. And like I said, I'm not used to having a product discussed completely, but I was very interested in utilizing something that has been backed in science and something that really I can bring to people who are pretty healthy but really want to make a difference. There's been a lot of talk with some professional athletes about switching over to just a plant-based diet and how much better their energy is, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
And talking a little bit more about their ability and their strength, etc. And so this just kind of goes to show you that there's some good stuff in it. And I think what we really need to do is we really need to get some people on this, and we really need to start looking at, what is this small cohort and what their feelings are. And I'm just wondering if we've got some people out there that are interested. You can always reach out to me at www.pursuewellness.us is the website, and pursuewellness.ck@gmail.com, and I can get you hooked up with Tracy here, and we can find out more that we can do to improve our health. Because right now the numbers for chronicity in terms of chronic health is skyrocketing, and the National Institute of Health says by 2023 we'll have run out of money. And we're also finding that we've got more children with chronic health. I mean, this isn't a product for children. You've got to be older. You've got to be 18 and above, right? And yeah. And, certainly if you've got a lot of medical conditions and you're in the older range, I think I would check with my doctor first. So thank you for all this information, Tracy. It's been a lot.
Thank you, Cindy. I really appreciate your time, and we're here to help. Cindy and myself with El Nutra and our other educators. So reach out. We're happy to share what we know, what we don't know. We love to hear back from customers and practitioners and providers. So let us know how we can help. And if you have any further questions, just give us a call, send us an email, and thank you again, Cindy. I really appreciate this. It's been fun and a lot of information, which is always fun for someone like myself.
Yeah,
so thank you.
You're very welcome. And we didn't script this. In fact, we just kind of hit the ground running and we just talked. And this is great. I always tell people who are going to do podcasts with me and we really don't have a focus. So I always say to people, it's kind of like, I have to judge what kind of people I'm going to be talking with, but I either say, hey, it's like having a drink of wine, glass of wine. And then some of the other people I don't know too well, I might say, well, it's like having a cup of tea, we're just kind of getting our information back and forth. So again, thank you for your time as well. And for everybody listening, this was yet another episode of Living with Lyme. You can find us at livingwithlyme.us. And please subscribe to the website. Of asking you all to do that. You can get a free meal plan from Kara, our registered dietitian, and I look forward to talking with you and bringing you more guests. So all you out there, have a good one. Bye now.